Hi, this is Adam Eliyahu Berkowitz from Breaking Israel News. I'm in the Golan, and I'm speaking to Jan Frost. Is it John or Jan?
Jan.
Jan. Okay, Jan Frost. Okay.
It's a short for Johannes.
Oh, okay.
John.
And where exactly are you in the world?
I'm in Denmark, a town called Horsens.
Horsens. Yeah. And Jan came to my attention. I wrote a story I believe it was last week, about the Danish Bible Society. It was 8 days ago. The Danish Bible Society produced a new translation of the Bible. And the translation, this is the Danish Bible Society, which is part of a global Bible society. They produced the Bible, and they had almost entirely taken out the word Israel from the New Testament, and there were a few places in the Old Testament where this was changed. And Jan brought this to the attention. He made a video. Unfortunately, I couldn't understand. It was in Dutch, correct?
It was Danish.
Danish. I always get that confused. I'm American. I'm very bad at geography. And I couldn't understand the video, but as a result of his inspecting the Bible and coming out with what he found in it, this actually became a very hot story in the news, and I think rightfully so. The translation and taking out the word Israel is not just a minor interpretation. I personally believe it's a very big issue. And we're going to get into that right now. So first, if you could tell me a little bit about yourself, Jan, and how you came across this Bible, that would be a great start, I think.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for inviting me to join you here.
Really a pleasure.
My background is that I'm a Christian Bible teacher. And I've been teaching youth, both in Denmark and also in our Bible school in Israel for many years. And of course, as a Bible-believing Christian, I'm very interested in how they translate our Bibles. I have a background. I have read both Hebrew and Greek at the university level, and therefore I have a rather good background to dig into the problems that there could be in a translation. We have an official Bible society in Denmark, as you said, connected to the international body of Bible societies, and they are giving out what we call the real edition of the Bible, authorized by the Queen of Denmark. The last one of those came out in '92. And of course, there is also, it's also necessary sometimes to give out a contemporary Bible translation. And that's what they've been working on the last years. So already in 2007, they came out with this new agreement, as they call it now. The New Testament, they call it the New Agreement.
When you say agreement, do you mean that's the translation from Danish, or is that?
That's a translation of a testament or covenant, as you say. So they talk about the old covenant and the new covenant, translated to the new and the old agreement. But already when the first one came in 2007, I reacted because Israel was taken out of the New Testament.
Already in 2007?
Yes. And in 2008, when I found out, I reacted. And I had a little discussion in the media in Denmark with the Bible Society. And the translators told me that they didn't want to change it. So it has been there since 2007.
So this
But
isn't
now
news.
no, it's old news, in fact. But now they've been working on a translation on the Tanakh, and that came out now as together with the New Testament. They translated the Old Testament, and now it came out as the Bible 2020. So it's because of the new edition that I have brought this up again.
You said you've been following this for a while. What exactly brought it to your attention? Do you think this is just trying to make it understandable to people, making it modern, or is there something else there?
Well, what they say is when they answer my question, it is that it's not political, it's not ideological, it's only because they want to make it understandable. And when ordinary people today, the youth and the elderly, they'll read Israel, they think of the modern state of Israel. And in order to erase that misunderstanding, they don't want to use the name Israel. But in fact, they did not change the name Egypt. They did not change the word or name Libya. And that's why I'm asking, why did you not do that? If it was because Israel today is not the same as Israel then, I think Egypt is not the same today when
it's not the same geographically or ethnically, that's for sure. And yeah. Libya as well. Also, Israel is not just a geographical location. It's not geography. The term Israel also refers to an individual, a person, Jacob, and it also refers to the people who are referred to as the children of Israel. Though you also have Israel and Judah, the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom.
That's right, and they agree in the definition of the word or the name Israel. They agree so far that they say it's not one thing, but it's at least two or three things. It's Jacob, it's the northern tribes, and it's the people of Israel. But they say, at the New Testament times, it was not the name of the land of Israel. It was called Judea. And therefore, you cannot say, is their opinion, that the land of Israel is the same today as then, because Israel was not called Israel at the Second Temple, in the Second Temple period. And in fact, and that frustrated me a little bit, the former Danish chief rabbi, Bent Melchior.
Frustrates me a lot, but okay.
That surprises me. And the former chief rabbi, Bent Melchior in Denmark, he agrees with them. And he don't see a problem in this.
Yeah, I read his statement. I have a big problem with that. Let's take a look at his statement. He actually, oh gosh, where did I put it? He said, the former chief rabbi in Denmark, Bent Melchior, he commented on the removal of the name Israel in the New Testament. He was quoted in a Danish newspaper, said, in Jesus' time, the area was not called Israel, but Judea. When we are called Jews today, it was because we come from Judea and not from Israel. So at that point, I would say that it can be a good correction because there's no geographical indication when Israel is mentioned in the Bible. and he's also translated the Chumash, the 5 books of Moses, into Danish.
Yes.
I find that to be a little bit, what we say in English, disingenuous. It may be a little bit correct, but the intention does not really relate to the issue. We aren't talking just about a geographic reality. And to be honest, even if we are speaking of a geographic reality, Israel was Israel. Israel was the southern kingdom, the northern kingdom. They were all the tribes of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, named after the 12 sons of Israel. So in one sense, Israel does relate to the entire entity. It's like saying that New Jersey is not part of the United States, because there are a lot of states, and it's part of the states. Israel and Judea were the northern and the southern kingdom under King David. They were one entity. I think it's also, the worst part about it is Israel, and the implication is that Israel from the Bible is not connected to Israel today. And in so many ways it is. And that's the insulting part.
And that's exactly what's the center of this problem. As far as I understand it, Judea was used in a political way at the Second Temple period, but Israel was used when they talked about religious things.
Oh, that's
also about Eretz Israel. So I think we have to distinguish here, but that's what some people don't. So when Matthew, the one who wrote the Gospel of Matthew, he refers to Eretz Israel. He means the country, the land of Israel, for sure. So I can only see this as an attempt on using the name Israel at all in the New Testament, because it must not refer to today's Israel.
Yeah, we have a saying in Judaism that the land of Israel, the people of Israel, and the God of Israel are all the same, are all one.
Yeah.
So by taking out the name, they may be trying to make a statement about geography. But in fact, they're actually, at least from my perspective, they're making a much bigger statement about me as a Jew today, about my relation to the Bible, to the land. It's all one. The land is, for me, the Bible. The Bible is the land, especially now that I live here. And that's one of the meanings. We discussed the verse. One of the very few times that they left in the word Israel. You'll have to tell me precisely where the verse is in the New Testament. When it says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is God, the Lord is one." Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, which is a very central concept in Judaism. We say it twice a day. And they kept the name of Israel in. Where exactly is that in the New Testament?
Well, that must be in the Gospel of Mark, but in fact, that is the one of the two only places in the New Testament where they kept the word Israel,
and
because it was a reference to Tanakh, and therefore they kept the word. So that's okay.
Oh, you mean the verse was taken directly from the Tanakh?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
So therefore they couldn't change it.
I mean,
of course.
I mean, that was one of the first questions my Jewish friends asked, was like, what are they going to say? Hear, oh, us? Listen up.
Yeah, no.
It gets a little difficult.
But when you mention it, there is other places in Tanakh where they change Israel with us, and I think I gave an example in In Psalm 121, verses 4, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
It goes so in the New Translation. He who takes care of us will not fall asleep. No, he is not sleeping. There you have taken out Israel and put in us instead. That's replacement theology, in my view.
Oh, now the cat's out of the bag. You just you just said the big word.
Yes, and
So
it's
you
not the
connect
only
this,
place.
you connect this to
If you,
replacement theology? This
pardon?
You connect this translation to replacement theology?
Yes, of course. Because you don't only try to explain what the text means, you rewrite it and you give it another meaning that the original text has. Or when you do that, when you change it from the original meaning to another meaning, then you are replacing Israel with us. So that's replacement theology,
And I
quite
think
loud and clear.
I think
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that is their intention. They say it's not their intention. They just want to make it easy for the modern reader to take those words as his own. They say.
yeah, replacement theology, it's funny. It has a lot of different forms, a lot of different ways of coming out replacement
Yeah,
theology.
yeah.
Like in archaeology, I had a friend who used to work in the city of David, which is downhill from the Temple Mount. And she used to get asked hundreds of times a day, where are the remains of the temple? And she just kept pointing uphill to the Temple Mount. Because for some reason there's a need to replace our history. Um, Islam is replacement theology, and they've replaced all of history. According to Islam, all of the prophets, every person mentioned in the Bible, the New Testament and the Old Testament, is Muslim, and Israel is Palestinian, has always been Palestinian. I don't want to go there. I want to stay positive. So I have a question. So when you're a Bible teacher, and obviously the Bible is very important to you. So when you read the Bible, as a person who is from outside of Israel, how do you understand Israel when you see it in the Bible, in the New Testament?
When I read Israel in the New Testament, I understand it as Israel. As a believing Christian, I believe that the New Testament is talking about the Jewish Messiah, Yeshua. And we believe that Yeshua is the Messiah for Jews and for Christians. But we believe that he was born, of course, in Israel, in Bethlehem. He lived, he died, he rose in Jerusalem.
He had an Abba and an Ima.
That's in Israel. It's not in Copenhagen. It's not anywhere on other places on the earth. That's in Israel. And it's going to return to Jerusalem, and that's in Israel. So when I read Israel in the New Testament, I read Israel.
Do you connect that to Jews today? When you look at me, do you see someone who's connected to those words and those events that happened in the Bible?
Yes. When I read Ezekiel, the prophet Ezekiel 36, 37, it speaks about the restoration of Israel. I see that today as I see the state of Israel today as a fulfillment of that prophecy. So I see a very, very clear connection between the prophets' words about the coming restoration of Israel and what's going on in Israel today, quite clearly.
And the Jews who are walking around in Israel.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, and you know something, I have a feeling, you know, replacement theology, it's damaged the church. It's damaged Christianity.
Yeah,
For example, when I connect with Christians in Israel, I mean, it's phenomenal. You're walking on the land
yeah,
that people that we read about in the Bible, we're walking on that very soil. Those are the grains of sand.
yeah,
When you're in Bethlehem, you are in Bethlehem. When you're in Jerusalem, well, you walk the Via Dolorosa, you go on the Temple Mount. That's the Temple Mount where Jesus walked. If you put it down in the city of David downhill, well, you're not walking where he walked.
mm.
And I think that's a huge loss. And it makes the words absolutely 1000% real, more real than anything we have in the world today. And it's still here. And it's a shame to
That's
take
right.
that out. It's a shame to take that out.
That's right. And I can tell you, when I became a believer many years ago, one of the first things I did was to go on a youth travel to Israel. And we traveled around the country for 2 weeks in a very funny wagon. But we saw a lot, and then it just became real for me. Wow, this is what the prophets talked about.
Oh, yeah.
This is what the old prophets, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and Jeremiah, it's what they talked about. That's what I'm seeing coming to life here. And it was a great blessing for me to see that, and is a great blessing for me to see it today also.
Amen. It's the same thing happened to me. I was 17 years old. I was 17, so I knew everything. And I went to En Gedi, and I remember the tour guide was saying, you know, well, this is where King David camped out, and down there was King Saul. And wait a second, wait, what are you talking about? Like, this is like what? You know, King David, like the harp, the Psalms, and she's like, yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean here? You mean somewhere in this general vicinity? She said, no, look around. This is the only place where you can see the spring from up above. And that's what the Bible described. And I'm like, this is a tiny place. I'm like walking where King, and she's like, yeah. And I totally freaked out. And it still happens to me. It's a huge blessing. And it's such a pity to try to remove that blessing from that. We're so blessed to live in a generation where we can go to these places. You know, it wasn't possible for so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that you were able to come to Israel and share that. It is a huge blessing. It's a huge blessing for Jews. It should be a huge blessing for Christians to connect to that, to connect to the Bible in a physical, real sense.
And that was why I got involved in the Danish ministry to Israel, where we are supporting Israel in different ways. I've been involved in that organization for many years, and been chairman also for many years. I'm retired now, but we've been working social work with social work in Israel for many years. Are still working in Jerusalem. We have our own house in Jerusalem where we are inviting Danish youth volunteers and the senior volunteers that are coming down and helping, first of all, needy people in cooperation with Jerusalem municipality.
So your devotion to Jesus has brought you closer to the Jews in Israel of today?
That's the truth, yes.
That's a powerful truth. Yeah. I wish if there can be 2 sentences that come out from this whole video, that's it. And I mean, there's a lot of work there, and this is literally building bridges. You from your side, me from mine. And I think I know from my job, a lot of it is getting Jews to open up the doors. We're not so good at that. And I think we have to realize that we have a function, and it doesn't have to do with us. It has to do with us being Kohanim, with being priests who serve. If we came back to Israel, it should be also to enable you to connect to God. And God willing, that's something we were able to do. Yeah, I think that's the real loss. If they take the word Israel out of the Bible, they're taking Israel out of Christianity, and we can't connect with you then because we're not there.
Yes, you're quite right. They are trying to split between the New Testament and our Jewish roots. And that's what this is all about, I think. It's very, very important that we as Christians understand that Christianity is not a belief that has grown out of nothing. We have our roots in Tanakh. We have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as the forefathers in a spiritual way, you see. But if we split that up, we'll miss our roots. And a tree without a root, what happens when it's blowing? It's just falling down, and that's what's happened with Christianity. If we're not aware of our roots, we will not survive. I'm convinced about that.
Well, that's interesting. And if you read the Bible without Israel in it, then you've taken those roots out.
You're taking part of the roots out, yes.
Huh. That's so important. That's so important. And it really does. I mean, it's interesting. The question is not so much, we need to figure out where we're going in the future, and it's not easy for either side. I struggle with it as well. Yeah, and replacement theology is a big stumbling block that we have to get past. I'm wondering, let me tell you where I'm coming from. You're familiar with Psalms 126.
Mm.
Okay, Psalms 126, it says that let me tell you how I learned it. I learned it actually in the Talmud. And in the Talmud, it says that we cannot be happy. We cannot be fully happy since the destruction of the temple. When can we be happy? We can be happy when the non-Jews come to us and tell us, look how wonderful it is what God did for you. Az yomu vagoyim, when it is said amongst the nations, how wonderful it is, which is Psalms 126. When it is said among the nations how wonderful it is what God has done for you, then our mouths were filled with joy. Then we can be happy. And if a Jew had read that 100 years ago, it wouldn't have made any sense. So when I see you as a Christian coming to me and saying, look at Israel, look at what's happening today, it's a huge blessing. Now I am suddenly permitted by the Psalms to be entirely happy. I'm not waiting for me to become the best Jew. I'm not waiting for my rabbi to tell me. There has to be a relationship with the non-Jews. And that's implicit, if not explicit, in that Psalms. So for you to be so deeply connected to Israel as a Christian, for me, that's the revelation of prophecy.
Hmm. Oh, it's very interesting to hear
That's
that.
how we learn it.
It's very encouraging.
I wish more Jews would see it that way. I mean, I'm not saying that, we have a saying, many ships cross the ocean and they can't follow each other because they don't leave trails. So I believe very much that you have to find your way to God. I have to find my way to God. I also kind of believe we're heading to the same place, but it's necessary that we be different.
When it comes to replacement theology also, I have to be aware that it has damaged a lot between Jews and Christians during the the centuries. The history of the church and the synagogue is a very sad history, and in many ways I'm very sorry about this, but and also sometimes I feel very ashamed of how the church during the centuries has punished and been unfair and rule towards the Jewish people. But today, or the last couple of centuries, there's been an awakening in a part of the church, what we call the evangelical church. And I think today the evangelical church, both in the United States and in big parts of Europe, is a very strong supporter of the state of Israel and the Jewish community.
I think so, and I don't think it's a matter of being nice, being friendly, or being polite. I hope that it's because it's that taking out replacement theology is damaging to Christianity as I see it, and the Christians that I know who connect with Israel without replacement theology, oh my goodness, they are flying. They are so devoted to Christianity, to Jesus. They're and that's what they get by taking out this replacement theology. Judaism, it's forbidden for me to try to convert anyone. It's forbidden for me to preach. I understand Christianity is different. We actively discourage conversion. So that's not my agenda. I don't have an agenda other than trying to come close to God, trying to serve God as a Jew, which I see. I mean, when King Solomon dedicated the temple, the second thing he said was, accept the prayers of the foreigners who come. Because it was dedicated as a house of prayer for all nations. It's prophesied to become a house of prayer for all nations. So if we go up there by ourselves, then that prophecy will never happen. I encourage, I think it's so necessary for Christians, as Christians, to connect to Israel. So taking that out of the Bible is destroying that possibility. And I've seen it with my own eyes. Christians who connect with Israel, it's like pow. It's like living waters. They really connect, and I see that in you.
Yeah.
And I would hate to take that. I would hate to take that away. I would really hate to take that away. And that's what I see this translation doing.
And I think you're right. For us as Christians, it's not a question of being nice and polite and supportive of supporters of Israel, just in a popular level, but it's also it's deep in our heart. We really want to bless Israel, because the core of our faith, the belief in Yeshua HaMashiach, I think it's the way you pronounce it. That's a core in our faith, and that gives us the special relationship to Israel and to Jews all over the world, because in a way we are connected with one another. And of course, opposite Judaism, as a Christian, I'm not forbidden to preach the gospel. I'm encouraged to.
Pentecost is coming up, if I'm not mistaken. Is it?
Pardon?
Pentecost?
Yes, Pentecost. It teaches me to bring the gospel to everyone on the earth.
Well, that's Shavuot. It happened on Shavuot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Our holiday of Shavuot is coming up very soon.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
So I apologize, but I do have to add a disclaimer. Unfortunately, there are people who there are Jews who do not understand Jews connecting with Christians. So unfortunately, I have to add, I am not a believer in Jesus. However, I do believe that Jews and Christians not only should, but must have a meaningful relationship in order for the third temple to come, in order for the Messiah to come, in order for Israel to serve its purpose. So I'm not, this is not meant to convert Christians to Judaism or Jews to Christianity. This was a meeting on the way by two people who happened to believe in helping each other through the desert.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's important. We can discuss it. You know, there are people who even don't want to talk about it, but we can talk with each others, and have different opinions, and we can be friends anyway. So
I think it's necessary. I don't think it's also, I mean, you've gone through a lot to maintain your relationship with God. You've dedicated yourself to it, as have I. And it means that if we have to be not polite, or if we have to be not nice to remain connected to God, we're going to go there. So this isn't like, oh, let's be nice. And that's something I want to point out. This is not an interfaith meeting, because interfaith is we're all the same, and I'm not saying we're all the same at all.
Oh, that's right.
Interfaith would say, gee, let's write a Bible for everyone. You know, God is a woman. God is all colors. God is. Let's make everyone feel good. This is not about feeling good. This is entirely about each man serving God to the best of his ability in the way that he was created. And that's, I used to really, I never felt good about interfaith work, and I have a lot of friends who went into it, and I realized that is the problem. What we're doing is interfaith is we're all the same, let's come together. What we're saying is, look, in order for the Jews to really come back to Israel and be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, in order for us to fulfill the prophecy of a house of prayer for all nations, we need to connect to the nations. It's like we're not given the Torah at Mount Sinai for our own benefit. I remember there's this crazy thing when after the sin of the spies, when God was ready to kill all of Israel, what did Moses say? What are the other nations going to say? God didn't bring us out to give us a big gift. He brought us out to sanctify his name in the world. And if killing us was not sanctifying his name, then he wouldn't kill us. Our purpose in Israel is to sanctify his name in the world, but we have to sanctify it to someone. We're not just sanctifying it to ourselves or to the angels. And that's why we do connect to you.
And that's important that's an important message, both to Christians and to Jews. Let me tell a little history. One of the many times I went to Israel to teach, I one day sat in Shirut from Ben Gurion to Jerusalem. And there was another, there was a very Orthodox Jew in the little bus also. And he was listening to others in the Shirut talking. That was Christians. They were talking about, they were going to visit some friends and so. And then suddenly he shouted in the bus very loudly, "Go home where you come from." It was just quiet in the bus. And a little later he said the same, very loud, "Go home where you come from." And then the bus driver suddenly stopped the bus in the middle of the highway and asked me to change seat with another one. So our young fellow there could get up in front. And when there was a room up in front again, I went back to my place and I sat beside him. I said, "Okay, we talk here?" "Oh yes, you're welcome," he says. I said, "You got quite angry before." And then he blew up, you know. have you ever heard of any Christians do anything good for Israel or the Jews?
I could give him a list. Okay.
And there I sat, and I said, listen, young man, I've been speaking up for Israel for more than 30 years. And then I talked to him about the work we are doing in Jerusalem, working about the needy. I've done that for several years. And his face just changed. And I mean, that personal connection, it did something to him because we related, we talked together. And that's the way we have to talk together about the problems we feel with each other.
We do. And it has to be out on the table.
Then we can go on. Not agree in everything, not being one the same, in everything, but we can talk together and we can work together where we are at the same goal, as we are doing now.
Yeah, and that's going to be the real change of history, that we can change 2,000 years of history of bad relationship between Jews and Christians. I mean, there was a period of time where Christians were part of Israel. And I'm speaking about after Jesus' death. And so I'm hoping that that we can go back to that. At least not, I don't know. I don't even know what it will look like. I don't want to even suggest what it might look like. I don't want to get anyone angry, but it's got to happen. It's got to happen, and we're moving towards it. We are. Anyway, I think we'll end it here, Jan, if that's okay with you.
That's okay.
I hope this goes out there and people get some spiritual connection to God with it. I want to emphasize that we did not intend to speak badly about anyone.
No.
There is absolutely no lashon hara, no slander, no libel intended here. And if it did come out that it might have seemed that way, I do apologize. And ask for forgiveness straight up. And hopefully this will happen again. And if you come to Israel, I want you to come visit. I live in the Golan.
I surely will.
And when all this craziness is over. Okay.